Hello everyone, today I am going to discuss the major element and minor element of object oriented system. There are two categories of element in our object oriented system, that is major element and minor element. I will also discuss about abstract, how to represent the abstract class by using class diagram, how to represent interface by using class diagram. I will also discuss in this lecture, and the previous lecture I have discussed already covered the very important topic, that is inheritance. I have also discussed the different type of inheritance for specialization, inheritance for generalization, inheritance for extension, inheritance for restriction, inheritance for overriding. Even I have discussed a complete example of inheritance in my library example, where one of the member base class is called member, and the member can be two types. It may be a lifetime member, it may be an annual member. I have just implemented the child class from the base class. I have also discussed how to represent by using class diagram all the data member, how to represent, how the functionality of data member will be accessed by using overriding in subclass. I have already discussed those topic. Is very important, because inheritance is always in object oriented programming is very important topic. And in this lecture I will discuss about the some element in object oriented system, the major element. There are two categories of element in the object oriented system. First one is called major element and the second one is called minor element. So what does mean the major element actually? So elements and minor elements. So by major means it is mean that if a model does not have any of these element, it cases to the object oriented. There are four major element: abstraction, encapsulation, modularity and hierarchy. These four are the major element of the framework of object oriented system, because the framework of object oriented system based upon the object model. So that object model are two categories of object oriented, two categories of element. These are the major element and these are the minor element. And minor elements means these elements are useful but not indispensable part of the object model. There are three major minor elements, that is typing, concurrency and persistence. Now I will discuss what does mean the abstraction, encapsulation, modularity and hierarchy sorry, briefly, and what does mean the typing, concurrency and persistence. So I will discuss little bit about those major element. So first one is abstraction. So abstraction, this term is very common to you, because you already covered so object oriented programming. So abstraction means to focus the essential features of an element, okay, or object in object oriented programming. So ignoring in erroneous or accidental properties. So abstraction means focus on the essential features of an element, just ignore the accidental properties. The essential features are related to the context in which the object is ignored. For example, when a class student is designed, the attribute enrollment number, name, codes, address are included, while characteristics like pulse rate, size of the shoe are, since they are not relevant in the perspective of educational institution. Now come to the encapsulation. So encapsulation, we already know that is a process of binding both the attributes and methods together within a class. So in the previous lecture I have discussed this when I am talking about the encapsulation. We have that all the data member and just make it private, and all the member function make it public, so that we both bind the attributes and method together within a class. Though encapsulation and internal details of class can be hidden from outside, and the class has the method that provide the user interface by which the service provided by the class may be used. So encapsulation is one of the important concept in object oriented programming. Now come to the next point, what does mean the modularity? So modularity is also a process of decomposing a problem or program into a set of modules so as to reduce the overall complexity of the problem. We already know that most of the time we have followed so many algorithms that we try to decompose a big problem into a small problem. Here we are talking about is the process of decomposing a problem into set of modules so as to reduce the overall complexity of the problem. So that is called modularity. Okay. So modularity is intrinsically linked with encapsulation. Modularity can be visualized as a way of mapping encapsulated abstraction into real physical module, having the high cohesion within the module, and their inter-module interaction or coupling is very low, we can think. So modularity is a property of a system that has been decomposed into new set of cohesive and loosely coupled modules. Okay, so modularity is very important concept in object oriented programming also. And the last one, in case of major element hierarchy, we already know that hierarchy is a ranking or ordering of abstraction. There are two type of hierarchy in object oriented analysis. One is a hierarchy. So in case of inheritance, we have defined that is a relationship, and we can say has a relationship, or we can say part of hierarchy. So there are two type of hierarchy. So in is a relationship, we define the hierarchical relationship in inheritance, whereby from a superclass a number of subclass may be divided, which may be again have subclasses and so on. So in the previous lecture I have discussed about the inheritance, which is very important topic. So we have seen that fruit is an apple. Okay, so we can say apple is a fruit, like that mango is a fruit. So is a relationship. So manager is a employee, so is a relationship. And another is part of has a relationship. So we define the hierarchical relationship about relationship in aggregation by which a class may be composed to other classes. In the next example, next lecture I will discuss about the aggregation and association, which is by using class diagram, which is very important concept. And here the hazard relation, for example, is a part of we can think as a part of hierarchy. Okay. So next things is minor element. So minor element, what does mean the typing actually? So according to the theories of abstract data type, we already know the what does mean the abstract data type. A type is a characterization of a set of elements. In object oriented programming, a class is visualized as a type having the properties distinct from any other properties. Okay, any other type. So typing, here the typing is the enforcement of the notion, so that an object is an instance of a single class or type. So please remember the line, typing is the enforcement of the notion that an object is an instance of a single class or type. It also enforces that object of different type may be generally interchanged, and can be interchanged only if a very restricted manner, if they absolutely required to do so. So, there are two type of typing, one is strong typing, another is weak typing, and the second one is concurrency. You are already familiar with the concurrency in operating system, because concurrency in operating system allow the permitting the multiple tasks or multiple process simultaneously. So, that means concurrency. So, when a single process exists in a system is said to be that a single thread of control. We have already know that thread, and however most system have multiple thread, some active, some waiting for CPU, some suspended, and some terminated. So, we have a multi-threaded system. In case of concurrency, we have already seen in case of operating system. But in case of object oriented environment, there are active and inactive object. So, when we talk about the concurrency in case of object oriented environment, so we will say there are two type of object, one is active object, another is inactive object. The active object have independent thread of control, that can be executed concurrently with thread of other object. The active object can execute concurrently with thread of other object, that is the meaning, and the active object synchronize with another as well as purely sequential object. So, we know synchronize and non-synchronized method also. So, here the concurrency means there are active object, inactive object, and active object have the independent thread of control that can be executed concurrently with other thread object, right. And the last one is persistence. An object occupies a memory space or exists for a particular period of time. So, this property by which an object continue to exist even after its creator quiesces to exist is known as persistence. So, the property by which object continue to exist even after its creator, this property is known as persistence. Okay. So, that is all about the major element and minor element of object oriented system. So, next move on to the next topic, that is how to implement or how to draw class diagram of a abstract class. Okay. So, we know that in case of class diagram, we have a class name. Okay. We have a class name. Let us say one of the class name is for court. Okay. In case of when we are going to play the tennis, like, so we have a court, the class name is court. Okay. So, if I write like this, so that the class name should be treated as a normal class, but if I write this class name in italic format, COURT, so then it will be treated as a abstract class. Okay. So, right now I am talking about the abstract class. So, that is the difference between the abstract class and normal class in representation of class diagram. So, whenever we are going to write a abstract class, please remember that all the letter must be italic. And similarly, if I want to declare any method, for example, if I want to declare the method, all the method name must be italic. So, for example, get rate is one of the method, for example, return type is integer. So, that all the method name must be in italic form. So, get info, for example, one of the method called get info and return type is string. So, here representation of abstract class is italic form. All the class name, all the method name should be in italic form. And suppose this abstract class is implement in my subclass. You already know that whenever we talk, for example, in this example we have a 3 type of code. So first one is hard code, second class name is clay code, and third is grass code. Okay. So here the hard code, whatever the class name I have written, so that class name as a normal class, because it is the implementation, right. So that is the difference between the normal class and abstract class. Here this is my abstract class. So we know the inheritance. So it means that there is an arrow from this one to this one. So this is a arrow, okay, and here the class name should be a normal name, okay. So there is no italic. So this class is italic. So that means if I want to implement this method, so this method must be in normal font, not italic, right, because this class extend the hard code class, extend the code class, but here we are just implementing. So that means it is a normal class, right. So all the letter are normal font, okay, not italic form. Italic form means it is a abstract class. So we can write like this. So these are our normal class. So we can write all those things. For example, we can write it may be there is a space for data member, and get rate, this is also a normal as the previous one. Get info, it is also a normal because it is a concrete class, okay. And we can also write here the get rate, get info. So that is how can I declare a abstract class by using class diagram. Let us see the next topic, that is interface. So whenever we declare a interface, we will know the definition that interface implement by some classes, okay. So whenever we will declare interface, I have to write the interface. So within double angle bracket I will write name interface. So when we write this one, so we can understand it is not a class, it is a interface. For example, if I write the class interface name is payment information, payment info. So this is the name of the information, name of the interface. And suppose one of the method is name save payment info. If there is data member is present, so you can make it data member. If you don't data member is present, you can make it simple. Here I am just doing the simple thing. For example, the amount sorry, float, and transaction ID string, and transaction entity, that is string, and return type of this method is for example void. So you can write like this, no problem, okay. So that should be within a box. So I have just skipped. And here when for example there are two type of payment, so payment information, there may be two type of payment, it may be card payment, it may be net banking, it may be, rather we will see that some manual payment class we can implement. So here for example, if there is a one of the class that implement this interface payment information, so name of the class for example card information, or you can write card payment. This is my class name, okay. And another class is for example net banking. If those two class implement this interface, so you can write a dotted arrow, okay. So from that we can understand it's a interface. So this is my interface and these are the class that implement this interface. So dotted arrow, not a solid arrow. So understood. So that is the representation of interface. So let me write the same thing. You know that all the method are in interface are abstract method, so it will be a concrete. So let me write save payment info. So amount, float, comma, transaction ID, string, transaction entity, string, and return type is void, okay. Similarly here we can write the same thing. I am just not writing same thing again and again. Here just I am writing the payment info and all the parameter is present here, and all those parameters are present here, and just writing for it. So here I want to concentrate on that. I am talking about the interface. So how to represent interface by using class diagram? We have to remember this thing is very important. This is the dotted arrow, okay. So when I talk about the interface, abstract class, all the letter are italic form in case of abstract class, but the normal class which implement this abstract class, this is a normal class, okay, right. All the method name, parameter name, whatever it is would be a normal declaration, as it is we have done in case of inheritance, in case of encapsulation we have seen that. And but in case of interface, when I want to declare an interface, we have to remember that there is a sorted, here is a solid line, but here is a dotted line. So that is the declaration, or by using class diagram how to declare the abstract and interface. So in this lecture I had just discussed the object oriented system. What are the categories of element? We have discussed about the measure element. We know there are 4 type of measure element: abstraction, encapsulation, modularity, and hierarchy. So measure element means if the model does not have any of this element, so it has to be object oriented, okay. And we have discussed some minor element for typing, concurrency, and persistence. And I have also discussed about the abstract class, how to represent by using class diagram. Have discussed about the interface, how to represent by using class diagram. In case of interface, we have to remember that all the inheritance class, the concrete subclass, is connected with a dotted arrow line, but in case of abstract class they are connected with the solid line, solid arrow. So that is the difference between interface and abstract class by using class diagram. I already know the difference also. And whenever we declare the interface, we have to write within the double angle bracket. So we have to write the interface, that keyword has to be written within this method name, and whatever the method that has been written, that as we know that interface class implements an interface. So that's why, so we have to repeat the same information within the class, okay, that implement the interface, because you know the definition of interface and you already familiar with it, with this one, because we have done so many interface. In case of applet program, we have seen that. In case of runnable interface, we have seen. In case of we are talking about the thread class. So when we had discussed about the thread, we have implemented the runnable interface. In case of graphical user interface, we have seen that so many interface regarding this one. And in next lecture, I will discuss the aggregation and associations rules associated, how to represent by using class diagram. I also discuss about some features of association, so whether it is unidirectional association, bidirectional association, reflexive association, I will discuss. I will also discuss about meta class and grouping construct. So thank you.